So for our class book, we read Teaching History for the Common Good. The main basis of the book is it discusses and analyzes the various ways that history students are currently taught history and what should be taught instead. This is more based on like ways of teaching history rather than the content, but it does discuss the content as well. Some of these that they talked about on how we should taught is through inquiry, analysis, historical empathy, moral response, exhibition, and narrative ideas. So the authors are Keith C. Barton and Linda S. Lovestick, and they discuss a lot about how to prepare students for pluralistic democracy and participate in discussions for the common good, just thus the name of the book. And it concludes with an admonition to not just learn these techniques and then do nothing with them. It ends saying like, hey, apply these to your teaching as well.
Some of the strengths we felt like Teaching History for the Common Good addressed were its ability to cover a lot of variety of topics. We went from everything from inquiry and analysis to narrative to empathy, and I really enjoyed how it was described and broken up so that it was easy to understand and apply to our own potential education and our interest as teachers. It was really well organized and really engaging with the examples and discussions. However, it was heavily focused on teaching elementary school students and middle school students, and it really didn't cover at all high school students, which I would have liked to see. I think they assumed that by talking about elementary school and middle school, we could then carry over it into high school, which was true in a lot of ways, but I would have liked to see the more specific examples for that. Additionally, they didn't make very many connections between topics, so it was very separate in talking about analysis and talking about inquiry, but we didn't see many layovers or connections between topics discussed.
So teaching history for the common good really goes into a deeper analysis about the ways in which we teach civic preparation and engagement in many of the schools, which is what we've been talking about a lot in our class. By looking into the common methods used to teach history, Barton and Lovestick identify the effective methods of teaching history to encourage students to become part of a pluralistic democracy. As we talked about in class, the McKay School has the 5 commitments, which also includes civic preparation and engagement. The book really takes this idea of civic preparation and like heavily develops on it. That's what the book is about. And Barton and Lovestick write that their judgments are grounded in assumptions about the contribution to history to democratic society rather than the mimicry of academic discourse. They really want to take it from something that students just learn about, and they instead make it into something that will impact them in the future as well. They seek to teach students that all perspectives in history have value through like things such as historical empathy, and not to teach students a simplified view of history. While it might be really easy to do this, they really want to teach students that there is a more complex side of history, but to teach this side without students getting overwhelmed, to develop these analytical skills to become better
citizens. We have talked about in class in 477 is civic engagement and creating students who would then be civic leaders and be involved in the community. And that's one thing that Teaching History for the Common Good really focuses on, is having democratic classrooms and teaching these concepts so that is for the common good, meaning society and meaning engagement. It goes right along with the BYU vision of having students who are engaged and understanding in the community and in the world around them. One of the key points discussed in this book was inquiry as knowledge construction. So we wanted to kind of demonstrate that to then talk about one of the examples we thought would be applicable in a classroom. So in order to demonstrate this, inquiry is kind of hard to demonstrate on a video. So I'm going to ask Sydney some questions to get kind of her engagement and some of her background knowledge to then apply to this lesson that we've prepared. So, Sydney, how would you react if you saw someone put a knife in a locker?
If I saw someone doing that, I would probably get really worried about what was going to happen in the school and would probably want to tell someone about it.
So if you saw someone coming up to that locker, an authority figure like the principal or a police officer at the school, and look at that locker, how'd you feel?
I would feel glad that they're finding it, and I would probably go talk to them and be like, yeah, I saw them put it in it, like I was a witness of this. So they had a little bit more like knowledge about it.
Well, how would you feel if a principal or police officer came up to you and just started going through your backpack?
If they just started going through and they didn't really like tell me why, I'd probably be really upset because I mean, you even if you are innocent, it's like, well, that's still my stuff. Like it's still my personal items.
Okay, awesome. So Sydney's responses to these questions can then help my lesson as I engage the students in talking about different court cases and different privacy issues, and having her background knowledge of what she already thinks about these issues and how she would apply it if it happened to someone else versus how she would apply it to herself can then lead to good discussion and seeing different perspectives when analyzing these documents of court cases.
So one of the things that we were thinking of showing an example of is there are some court cases that have to do with students' rights from the Supreme Court. And so we were talking about how you could take this background knowledge and you could apply it to the students so that you could have them research these different things, you know, do a little bit of inquiry into them, and then finish with a discussion about students' rights. That way it really engages their past knowledge, you have some inquiry in there, they have to do some analytical thinking as they go through this because like we demonstrated, when I think about someone else, it's easy for me to say, oh, yeah, go through their locker. But when it has to do with me, it's a lot harder because it's like, well, that's me. Like, it really impacts me. So this would bring students really closer to the issue and provide a better discussion.
As to whether I would recommend this book to another person, I would say that it was really helpful to understand the typical way that we teach students, such as teaching history for identity. Like, oh, we're a citizen of the United States. What does that mean? And moral development, like, was it right to drop the bomb in Japan? However, I would also say that the book really emphasized, particularly in the first half, what is currently being done. And the second half, it talked a little bit more how to apply these principles, but it really relied on middle school and elementary school, and not so much high school, which these things can be transferred over, but it would be really helpful to have more connection. One example of how they told readers what they should be doing without giving a better example is they talked about how you're supposed to discuss issues, questions with primary documents rather than just handing your students the documents without anything to kind of support them. But they really don't provide solid examples of how to do this, which would be very helpful to transfer their ideas into real life. So overall, I would say that it's helpful to really think about what we're currently doing, but it's not so helpful on the side of like how we should be doing it, which I think is more helpful, but it all depends on what you are looking for to get out of the book.